right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today is day number 5 for week number 8. There we go. And we are doing our announcements and our pledge today. So, for today's announcements, as you know, every day this week we are using the announcement time to introduce something new about next year for all of you. Some of you already know this, but most of you don't. Next year, our teachers, some of them are moving around a little bit. Our 4th and 5th grade teacher, Miss Lee, is actually changing, and she's going to be our new 3rd grade teacher for this next year. So all of you in 2nd grade right now in Miss Stubbs' class, you can look forward to having Miss Lee next year. She's going to be your 3rd grade teacher, and I hope you're excited for it. Now, our 4th and 5th grade is going to be taken over by a new teacher. His name is Mr. Sheehan, and he has been a teacher for many years, and he is also a former engineer from Raytheon. He has taught everything from kindergarten to 12th grade, and his very favorite grades to teach are 4th and 5th. And so I hope you're looking forward to working with him next year. We are super excited to have him on our staff. And finally, we have 1/3 teacher that's going to be helping out. So next year, Miss Kimmy and myself will still be working with our 6th through 8th graders in middle school, but we have another teacher who's also coming in to assist as well. And her name is Miss Chu. Many of you already know her as Miss Felicia, because her name's Felicia Chu. Felicia Chu, or Miss Chu, works with the EE Exchange. She does all kinds of educational programs concerning hands-on science all over Tucson. And next year, Miss Chu is going to be one of the teachers here at the school 2 days a week. And so I hope you're all looking forward to doing some hands-on science with Miss Chu. We are extremely excited to have her on board as well. Again, we are adding more teachers here who are fantastic working with kids and who know the hands-on engineering and science aspects so that as a school we keep growing and getting better and better. All right, so let's go ahead and do the pledge of the day. Well, let's go ahead and get to our Pledge of Allegiance for today. So wherever you are, please take a moment and stop. Stand up at attention. If you're wearing a hat like me, please take it off. Place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, hey, well, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a fantastic day of online learning today, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Talk to the screen. You need to be quiet for a little while. Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome back to week 8, day number 5. I'm going to try to get through this intro. Baby's a little squeamish right now. But anyway, so for today, we're going to be watching, at least in the first part, we're going to be doing a very short lesson from me and watching other videos. And so in life skills, we're going to be talking a little bit about drug abuse today and the risk factors for substance and drug abuse, like alcohol and illegal drugs and stuff like that. It's important to understand this before going into high school. You'll do better for it. Next up, in current events and economics, we're sticking with the space theme. We have a video today from one of the world's premier scientists for human exploration and exploration outside of the Earth, Dr. Pascal Lee. This guy, who was born in Hong Kong, he's actually done a lot of research exploring on Earth. Like, he's spent over a year in Antarctica and in the Arctic Circle. Really cool stuff. Next up in history, we are doing just a practice with imperialism. So it's just basically you're taking the quiz, okay? And then in literature, we're going to discuss chapter 25, and you need to go on to reading chapter 26. In science, we're going to be doing some reading out of the book. Yesterday, you had some questions to answer, and so today we are going to be reading through the book on page 400 and 402. And then in math, we have a lesson for group number 1 that I'm going to be doing with you guys, and in group number 2, there's really no lesson. You guys are just doing your negative exponent review. I will go over kind of the rules for using negative exponents briefly with you using the iPad, but most of it is just going to be you doing the work and then reading through the review. Okay, that's it for today's schedule. Let's go ahead and jump into the lessons. Hey, baby, you're doing all right. That's good. You looking at yourself on the computer? I think she is. I don't know. Okay. Ooh. Okay. All right, let's see if baby can stay happy for a little while here. So, so today in Life Skills, you're going to be watching a Khan Academy video on substance abuse. And boy, is this a weird topic to talk about while I'm holding the baby. But anyway, when you get to high school, you will be tempted with drugs and alcohol at some point, if you haven't been already. And it's important to understand a couple things about drugs and alcohol. Many kids think that the ability to do drugs and do alcohol and not become addicted has to do with how tough or how smart they are, when in reality it doesn't. It doesn't matter how tough and how smart you are. It matters on a variety of other things that we're going to watch in the video. You need to know yourself. It's important that you know yourself, you know your own risk tolerances, and you know how your own body works. If you don't know your weaknesses, you're prone to become you're prone to become a victim of them. So, for instance, one of my genetic weaknesses in my family is that my family has a history of addictive behavior, and so my great uncle used to be a famous newscaster on NBC News. He was a news anchor, and you kids are too young to know this name, but there was a guy named Walter Cronkite on the news every night. He was a very famous journalist, and his co-anchor was my great uncle. And my great uncle was fired by the network because of his drinking problem. And so it's something that runs in my family. And so I know my own weaknesses, and one day when my kids are your age, I'm going to talk to them about these weaknesses because it will become their weaknesses too, because of biological risk factors that we're going to discuss. As you watch this video, it's important to note that they use a term SES. SES stands for socioeconomic situation, and so SES is how rich or how poor you are. Yeah, it's kind of like the academic polite way of saying, do you have a lot of money and you're wealthy, or do you have a little bit of money and you're struggling? Yeah, and so they use that term as well. Okay, so again, please watch this video, and remember when you go into high school, there's the old saying of just say no. Oh, hey baby. Hey baby, Daddy's talking about heavy topics with his kiddos. Anyway. That old saying, just say no, it's there for a reason. Because when you're young and you don't really know yourself that well, it's super dangerous to do things like drugs and alcohol. And people who do drugs and alcohol when they're young are much, much more likely to become alcoholics and drug abusers when they get older. And so we tell you not to do these things as young people. And it's not just because we're boring, stodgy old adults who wear cargo pants and wear sandals with socks. It's not just that. It's that we know that when you do these things as a young person, you are much more likely to become a slave to them when you're older. Okay? So anyway, watch this video and take everything we say to heart, please. Okay? All right, that's it for Life Skills. Watch your Khan Academy video. All right, so baby spit up all over me off camera, so I had to change my shirt to this wrinkled one, and good old my wife was able to take her, so we're good on that. Oh, I wanted to point out this hat, Native Air. It was an airline, a regional airline in the Southwest a number of years ago, but it was started all by Native Americans, which is pretty cool. And I think they got bought out in the airline consolidation. I haven't seen them around for many years. But anyway, that's today's hat. Okay, so for today, for our current events, sticking with the space theme, we have a video by Dr. Pascal Lee. And one thing I want to point out about this video is that, like on YouTube, you can pick up a lot of conspiracy theorists, and like usually the way that they speak is they'll kind of sit in their little office chair and they'll be like, I was researching blah blah blah, and I noticed that lizard space aliens actually made the pyramids of Egypt, and I have evidence of that because of blah, blah, blah. And they're wackos. They're just crazy, and nobody should be listening to them, and they have no credentials and no basis. They're just like some dude in a chair, right? Even less, even less credibility than me, okay? And so, anyway, this video is kind of set up like those videos, and so I don't want you conflating the fact that this guy actually knows what he's talking about. He is a world-renowned expert who is he leads a team at NASA. He is a founding member of the HMP project for researching habitats for humans on other worlds. He is foundational at the SETI Institute, which is the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. This guy is a big name in exploration and specifically space exploration. He is incorrectly credited at times with discovering Deimos and Phobos. And so I don't know if you know this, but Mars doesn't have one moon. Mars has two moons, and both their moons are really small. And if you were paying attention when we were talking about gravity earlier in the year, when celestial objects get enough mass, they have enough gravity and they begin to round themselves out. They become spherical. And Deimos and Phobos are too small, and so they're not spheres. They're like these rocky asteroid-looking things. And so he didn't discover Deimos and Phobos. They were discovered back in the 1800s by people using simple telescopes. But he is the one who invented the idea of using these as a platform for researching Mars. And so he is a super cool guy. And when he sits there and talks about things that he's wondering about or whatever, he has the best NASA imaging and the most high-tech gear of anyone on Earth. And so his wanderings are kind of like the cutting-edge wanderings of science. And so he is going to talk to us today about splunking, which is exploring caves. Except the splunking he's talking about is splunking that's going to be happening on the moon and one day Mars. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I thought it was super cool. Oh, and he does a really brilliant job of talking about how we believe the moon was formed. I talked to both classes about this, the 6th, 7th, and the 7th, 8th, and I kind of did a crummy job compared to him. And he has all the models and stuff. It's really cool. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video for current events today. All right, for history, we're going to keep this short. We're going to keep it sweet. You have like a little practice quiz to do on imperialism for history, and that's it. If you need any reviews for it, if you don't know some of the answers, that's okay. You can go back. It's all found in the Khan Academy lessons, so go ahead and take your quiz over it, and you're good to go. Now it's time for us to jump into literature. Okay, so in chapter 25, we investigate what little boys used to do before comic books and video games. And so chapter 25 is just kind of a cute chapter where Tom and Huckleberry Finn get together and for some reason their friend Joe's not there. Not like Injun Joe, the racist killer. He's not racist. The term is racist. Anyway, but anyway, not Joe Hooper. I think their buddy. He's not there for whatever reason. So, so Huck and Tom are there, and they decide that they're going to do what little boys do when they're super bored, and they're going to go search for buried treasure. And so they spend some time talking about buried treasure. They were talking about diamonds, and it's like super cute. Like they talk about like what they're going to do with the treasure, and Huckleberry Finn, which is a little bit more, I think, like the boys in our class. He's just like, hey man, if we find buried treasure, I'm gonna spend it all on. I think he says like pie and soda or something like that. He's gonna spend it all on junk food. It's like the equivalent of the 1840s Takis, right? So it's kind of like if some of you boys found this buried treasure, I can just see like spending it all like Quick Trip, buying Takis and like Slurpees or something. And so that's basically what Huck wants to do. And Tom, he's kind of the ladies' man, and so he's like, well, if I find this, I'm gonna get married. And Huck's like, you're an idiot. Like, you're so dumb. And so And so, anyways, that's kind of their conversation. And so, they, in their little boy wisdom, they decide that they're going to search for buried treasure under a tree with dead limbs. And so they start digging, and they can't find anything. And so, of course, one of them, I think it's Tom, one of them says, "Well, if we can't find any treasure here, it's not because the odds of finding treasure are impossibly small." Again, these are little boys talking. It must have been a witch. A witch must have done it. It's not that treasure is impractical to find just by digging under a tree. It's that a witch did something. And so I forget exactly what they do, but I think they come back later that night because of some weird idea that they have about witches. And they don't find anything. And so eventually they get kind of scared because it's dark and there are no lights, and it is kind of scary. If you think about before we had electric lights everywhere, going out at night when you just have like the light of the moon or like a candle or something, it is kind of frightening, And these little boys, they get scared. And so they decide that they're going to give up, and that they're going to try this abandoned building that they call the haunted house next. And so, anyway, it's just kind of a fun chapter. It's a light read, and again, I think it's adorable. Little boys don't change, no matter what era they're in, and so this kind of reflects that. All right, so tonight for your homework, chapter 26, make sure that you do the 5 times each words and write out your vocabulary words with the complete definition that is found in the PDF that you downloaded. Okay? Get those over to Mr. Barbero so we can count them for credit for reading and for spelling. All right, let's go on to science. Science. So we're going to be doing some reading today. No homework because you had homework questions yesterday. So today we're talking about these basic machines and how, excuse me, I just drank some coffee, and how they work and exist inside your body. It's like one of those children's movies in the 90s that's inspirational. The machine is inside you. Okay, all right. Machines in the human body. Are you an eating machine? Using your front teeth, bite off the piece of a cracker. As you bite, observe how your teeth are breaking the cracker. Also, think about the shape of your teeth. I'm not going to do it on video here, but think about it, okay? All right, now chew the cracker. Pay attention to how your lower jaw moves. Touch your jaw below your ear, as shown in the photo. As you chew, push slightly there so you can feel how your jaw moves. If the structure is still not clear, try opening your mouth wide while you feel the back of your jaw. Now, I know some of you kids have something called TMJ, which is a basic form of arthritis of the jaw. And so some of you, if you have TMJ, and I know because I do, if you have TMJ, every now and again, your jaw will pop out of the socket. It can be kind of painful. But you are very aware of how your jaw works and how it's almost like on a hinge and everything else. And so, observing, when you bite and chew, your teeth and jaws serve as 2 kinds of machines. What are they? Think about it for a second. Okay, let's keep on reading and we'll find the answer. It's Saturday night and you and your friends are taking a well-deserved break from your schoolwork. You're watching a great movie, happily eating popcorn from a big bowl. Are you doing any work? Surprisingly, you are. Every time you reach for the popcorn, your muscles exert a force that causes your arm to move. And when you chew on the popcorn, breaking it into bits that you can easily swallow, you are again doing work. How are you able to do all this work without even noticing? The answer is machines. You probably don't think of the human body as being made of machines, but believe it or not, machines are involved in much of the work that your body does. So, how does the body use levers and wedges? Before you read, preview the illustrations and predict how simple machines are related to the human body. So think about your jaw again. Now think about grabbing the popcorn from the bowl and putting it in your mouth. All right, living levers. Most of the machines in your body are levers that consist of bones and muscles. Every time you move, you use a muscle. Your muscles are attached to your bones by tough connective tissues called tendons. Tendons and muscles pull on bones, making them work as levers. The joint near where the joint near where the tendon is attached to the bone acts as a fulcrum of the lever. The muscles produce the input force. The output force is used for everything from lifting your hand to swinging a hammer. A muscle by itself cannot push. It can only pull. When a muscle contracts or becomes shorter, it pulls the bone to which it is attached. So how can you bend your arm as shown in exploring levers of the body? Okay? The answer is that most muscles work in pairs. For example, when your bicep muscle on the upper arm contracts, it exerts a force on the bone in your forearm. The result is that your arm bends at the elbow, which in this case is the fulcrum of the lever. When the tricep muscle on the back of the upper arm contracts, it opens the elbow joint. So the bicep contracts and it closes your elbow. The tricep contracts and it opens it. And so the muscles can only contract. They can only pull in. And the way it works, again, is you have two muscles, and one pulls in to make your arm go this way, and the other pulls in to make it go out. Cool, huh? If you didn't know that. I think most of you did, but just in case you didn't. So, exploring the levers in your body. Oh man, poor jean shorts boy. You are just as awkward as I am. All right. Anyway, that's probably rude. I'm sorry. Exploring levers in your body. You don't need, and kids, if you wear jean shorts, it's okay. I wear jean shorts too. I feel your pain. You don't need to look any farther than your own body to find simple machines. 3 different types of levers are responsible for many of your movements. Okay, look at this picture right there. This is the jaw. The joint at the top of your neck is the fulcrum of a first-class lever. The muscles in the back of your neck provide the input force. The output force is used to tilt your head back. Okay? Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. No, I was wrong. Just ignore me. All right. Your arm works as a third-class lever. Your bicep muscle provides the input force. The output force lifts your arm. The ball of your foot is the fulcrum of a second-class lever. The input force is supplied by the large muscle in the calf of your leg. The output force is used to raise your body. All right, good deal. Look again at the different levers in exploring levers in the body. You will see that you can find a lever in your neck and another lever in your leg and foot. Just as you found with shovels, wheelbarrows, and fishing poles, the type of lever you find in the body, in the human body, depends on the locations of the fulcrum, input force, and output force. Working wedges. Have you ever paid attention to the shape of your teeth? Some of your teeth are wedge-shaped and others are pointed and still others are relatively flat. This is because they have different uses. When you bite into an apple, you use your sharp front teeth called incisors. These teeth are shaped to enable you to bite off pieces of food. What a simple machine do these teeth resemble? Your incisors are shaped like wedges. When you bite down on something, your wedge-shaped front teeth produce enough force to break it in half, just as an axe is used to split a log. Your rear teeth or molars are more flat. These teeth are used to grind your food into pieces that are small enough to be swallowed and then digested. There's a lot more to chewing than you may have realized. The next time you take a bite of a crunchy apple, think about the machines in your mouth. So figure 20. Your front teeth are shaped like wedges. These wedges allow you to cut through food, such as an apple. And we have some questions, and we're going to save those questions for day number 1 of week number 9. Okay? But again, all of these different systems in your body are just a bunch of working machines. And so we have actually developed in our own bodies really clever ways to use these machines. And then over time, people have developed the machines to be used on a larger scale. Yeah? And so, you know, we have ramps that we use in real life. We have levers and pulleys that we use in real life. I think actually, I don't know if the pulley is found in the body, but the body uses a system of levers in many interesting ways And it's basically how our body works. Again, it's all based on simple mechanics and simple machines. So I hope that this lesson was getting you to think a little bit. I don't think that we talked about anything that you didn't know. I think most of you kind of understood the way that your body worked before we talked about this, but we're just kind of learning that how our body works is related to how machines work in a fun and interesting way. All right, that's it for science for today. Let's go ahead and jump on into math. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk some math, group number 1. And so we've talked about different kinds of probability. We talked about experimental probability. We talked about basic probabilities and how they work. Today we're moving on to theoretical probabilities. And so we don't have any questions for today, which is nice. So there's no actual homework today. But I do want to read through this with you. So please do watch this whole video. So if you're following along in the book, we're on lesson 10-4, as you can see here. And so let's start reading. Theoretical probability. In the game of Scrabble, players use tiles bearing the letters of the alphabet to form words. Of the 100 tiles used in a Scrabble game, 12 have the letter E on them. What is the probability of drawing an E from the bag of 100 Scrabble tiles? And so, kids, you should understand that since there's 12 of them and there's 100 total, it would be 12 over 100. All right? In this case, pulling an E from the bag is called a favorable outcome. A favorable outcome is an outcome that you are looking for when you conduct an experiment. Now, kids, favorable outcomes are totally subjective. So a favorable outcome for you might not be a favorable outcome for someone else. Again, the favorable outcome is just what you decide it is. And so if you're wondering, well, geez, how do I tell the favorable outcome? The favorable outcome is what you decided it should be, or what someone else decided it should be in order to solve the problem. To find the probability of drawing an E, you can draw tiles from a bag and record your results. Or you can find the theoretical probability. Theoretical probability is used to estimate the probability of an event when all outcomes are equally likely. So theoretical probability, as you can see here, is probability equals the number of favorable outcomes over or divided by the total number of possible outcomes. So it's, again, we're going back to using a fraction. If each possible outcome of an experiment is equally likely, then the experiment is said to be fair. Experiments involving number cubes, dice, and coins are usually assumed to be fair. So maybe you kids don't know this, but you can actually get a dice, a number cube. I think that's cute they call it that. You can actually get a dice that is weighted on one side. And so they'll use like a heavy metallic like material to make the cube on one side. So when you roll the dice, it actually is more likely to land on one number rather than another. And so we call that a weighted die or weighted dice. Now, a fair dice is one that doesn't use any kind of metal or weighting to make it more likely to land on one side. A fair dice is a dice that will land on one of 6 sides at random in a completely fair way. And so again, if every outcome is equally likely, the experiment is said to be fair. It's unbiased. Experiments involving number cubes, coins are usually assumed to be fair. You can write probability as a fraction, a decimal, or a percent. All right, so again, this is more of the same of what we already know. We're talking about the favorable outcome, the outcome that we're looking for, which we already have done, and the total possible number of outcomes. But again, right now we're talking about the theoretical. We are dealing with things that are imaginary and in our minds rather than things that are physically right in front of us. So, find the probability, write your answer as a fraction, as a decimal, and as a percent. And so when we actually start doing this work on week 9, day 1, you're going to have to remember how to convert back and forth, and we'll talk about that then. What is the probability of drawing one of the 12 E's from a bag of 100 Scrabble tiles? So we have the number of favorable outcomes, which is grabbing an E, the number of possible outcomes, which is grabbing any tile. And so the number of E's goes on top, which is 12. The number of total tiles goes on bottom, which is 100. So we get 12 over 100. Then we simplify and get 3 over 25. And 3 over 25, when you convert it into a decimal, is at 0.12. When you convert 0.12 into a percent, is 12%. Yep. So the theoretical probability of drawing an E is 3 over 25, 0.12, or 12%. Capiche? All right. Wait, what is it that you kids say with Miss Kimmy? Capiche, capoche, or something like that? All right, so find each probability, write your answer as a fraction, as a decimal, and as a percent. What is the probability of rolling a number greater than 2 on a fair number cube on a dice? So, for a fair number cube, each of the 6 possible outcomes are equally likely. There are 4 ways to roll a number greater than 2. You can roll a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. So, we have favorable outcomes that happen 4 out of the 6 times. So the number of favorable outcomes is 4. The total number of possible outcomes is 6. And so 4 numbers are greater than 2. That goes on top. 6 possible outcomes go on bottom. 4 over 6 equals 2 over 3. 2 over 3 gives us a decimal of 0.6 repeating, or a percentage of 66.6 repeating, or in this case they rounded up to 0.7%. All right? Next up, school application. Mr. Ashley has written the names of each of his students on a craft stick. He draws randomly from these sticks to choose a student to answer a question, and then replaces the stick in the pile. What if Mr. Ashley named or married a woman named Ashley? It should be Ashley Ashley. Anyway, okay, so you get this idea. There's a bunch of popsicle sticks, and he writes the name of each student randomly on a popsicle stick, and he maybe puts them in a jar. And when he has a question, he takes one of the popsicle sticks out at random, and he asks the question to that person. Yeah? So if there are 11 boys and 16 girls in Mr. Ashley's class, what is the theoretical probability that a boy's name will be drawn? So 11 boys, 16 girls, 27 students total, and 11 of them are boys. In this case, a boy answer is a favorable outcome. And so maybe you're a girl and you don't want to answer the question, right? So him calling on a boy would be a favorable outcome for you. Maybe you're a boy and you really want the question to be answered by you or another boy in the class. The boy would be a favorable outcome. So number of boys in the class, 11. Total number of students, 27. So theoretical probability of a girl's name, we just swap them. Okay, 16 girls in the class. So if the favorable outcome is a girl, 16 goes on top. The total number of students, which is 27, goes on bottom. Done. Okay. So, you know what? Let's read through this really quick, because then we just get to the questions, and I think it's better to spend just a little more time on this. So give an example. Explain an experiment in which all of the outcomes are not equally likely. Explain. So, give an example of an experiment in which all of the outcomes are not equally likely. So what is a situation or an experiment that you could do where not all of the outcomes were equally likely? I can think of one. So trying to think of something that is relatable for all of us, okay? All of you know that we do Party Gamer Club on Friday. And all of you know that Mr. Barbero is quite the gamer. And so let's say that you were playing a game like Mario Kart or Smash Brothers, and you were playing against Mr. Barbero. So if we had 8 people playing a game, and one of those 8 people were Mr. Barbero, there would not be an equal chance, all right, that any one of the 8 people could win. Because Mr. Barbero is so good at video games, if Mr. Barbero were in the game playing with you, it would be more likely that he would win rather than one of the other 7. All right? So Mr. Barbero would skew the experiment. Otherwise, if you just took a random group of 8 students from anywhere in the school and threw them on Mario Kart, it would probably be an equal percentage that any one of them could win. But if you put Mr. Barbero in there, it'd be much more likely that he would win all the time than any of the other 7. And so that would be an experiment in which all of the outcomes, in other words, all of the students could win, would not be equally likely. Make sense? Next, find the theoretical probability that a number cube, dice, will land with 6 up. if you roll a number cube dice 5 times without its landing 6 up, what is the theoretical probability that the cube will land 6 up on the 6th roll? Explain your answer. So, if you roll a dice and you get the number 1, and you roll the dice again and you get the number 2, and you roll it over and over and over again, does the probability that it's going to roll a 6, does that actually change over time? Think about it. If I roll 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 over and over and over again, does that make it more or less likely that I'm going to roll a 6 next? It actually doesn't. And so rolling a 6 is always a 1 out of 6 chance. Always. It doesn't change. It doesn't matter how many times I've rolled the dice and not gotten a 6. It's not one of those things that is just definitely going to happen. Now, the chance of rolling the dice 100 times and not getting a 6 is very small. But the chance that you'll get a 6 on the 100th roll is the same chance as you'll get a 6 on the first roll. It doesn't change. You always have a 1 in 6 chance of getting any of the numbers on a dice. Okay? I know that seems a little counterintuitive for us. Like, I don't know if when you get older, again, this is not something for kids your age, but when you get older, a lot of times adults, they'll talk about doing like a slot machine in Las Vegas where they pull the thing and the little spinners spin, and then if they get like 3 cherries, then they win, or if they get like three of the same things, then they win. And so adults who do slot machines, a lot of times they say, oh, well, this slot machine hasn't won in a long time, so it's bound to happen. It's coming up. It's a ripe slot machine, and so I'm going to play it because it's likely to win. That's not necessarily the case, at least for dice. If you don't get the outcome that you want for a dice, you could roll forever and never get it because there's always going to be, a 1 in 6 chance that you get any of the answers. Okay? Oh, man, my hiccups. So, anyway, what was that? I should read that. Anyway, guys, that's it for math today. Have a fantastic weekend. Hope you guys have some fun stuff planned. For me, I'm just doing cleaning, but maybe you guys have some more exciting things like hiking, or maybe you're finally going out to see your friends. That would be really cool. All right, take care, everybody. See ya on day 1, week 9. All right, group 2, let's go ahead and get started. If you hear kind of like this rumbling in the background, I'm doing like a drive operation on my RAID array, and so it's just the computer working through some stuff. All right, so let's go ahead, and jump into our notes here. So what we're going to do is we're going to review how to use negative exponents briefly, and then just go ahead and do the negative exponents quiz. I also want you to read the review on negative exponents after you do the practice quiz, but again, I'm hoping this is pretty easy for you. So I did want to review because it's easy to forget. We haven't talked about them for a little while. So if I have a variable like y and it has a negative exponent, let's say a -3, yeah, that negative sign is kind of like it's kind of like a ticket across the division bar. You can think of negative exponents almost like bus tickets. Okay, like if you go from, let's say you're going from your home to the school and you got to get on the public bus, you have to pay a ticket. And then when you're going from the school to back to your home, you have to pay another ticket. You know, if you're not using cash, you just have a ticket. And so every time you go somewhere on the bus, you have to pay the bus ticket. And so a negative exponent is like that ticket. And so what happens is once you spend the ticket, everything is still the same, except you don't have the ticket anymore, and you get where you're going. So that negative exponent is the ticket across the fraction bar. And so y to the power of -3, when it's done, equals 1 over y to the 3rd. Just like that. Again, the negative exponent moves you across the fraction bar, and then the negative goes away, and everything else stays the same. That's it. If we have, let's say we have 1 on top and a -3y on the bottom, well, again, that negative exponent is the ticket back across to the top of the fraction bar. And so it equals y to the 3rd power over 1, or just y to the 3rd power. And so think of negative exponents again as meaning that you need to go back to the other side of the fraction bar. Now, this also works the other way. So if we have, let's say we have 1 over x to the negative fourth. No, I'm messing up. Let's say we have 1 over x to the fourth. 1 over x to the fourth can be rewritten in a different way as x to the negative fourth. They're both the same. Because again, if I move this x to the fourth power to the top, up there, then the exponent becomes negative, okay? And so my whole little ticket with the bus analogy kind of breaks down at that point. But you need to understand that, again, the negative on the exponent sign means that you flip it to the other side of the fraction bar. And if you force something to the other side of the fraction bar, when it doesn't have a negative, it will get a negative. Okay, let's do another example. So if I have, let's say I have a squared. A squared is the same thing as 1 over a to the negative second power. Because if I'm forcing my a squared to go on the bottom of the fraction bar, then it picks up a negative sign on the exponent. So again, the negative sign on the exponent always means that we flip it across the fraction bar, and we can cause a negative exponent to happen by moving it to the wrong side of the fraction bar. All right, I hope that brief review kind of jogs your memory on how this works. And I know Khan Academy does a great job of explaining negative exponents. And on Khan Academy, they don't have to use the silly little mind games that I play with myself in order to remember these things. They have a much more cogent answer that makes mathematical sense, other than your math teacher being like, oh, it's like a bus ticket, right? So I understand how corny my analogies are, but hopefully somewhere between Khan Academy and Mr. Roll's corny analogies, you understand the concept. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a fantastic weekend after you finish your homework. This has been week 8, day number 5. I look forward to seeing you all on week number 9. I'll be honest with you guys, I am missing all of you. I've been talking to a couple parents and just, I want to get back to normal. So anyway, I am looking forward to seeing a couple of you at your 8th grade graduation. So I think that's going to be cool. Get to actually see you in person again rather than just reading your emails. And yeah, have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon. Bye.